Hey guys, my name is Rob, and today I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing the Razer Wolverine V3 Pro. This is an officially licensed Xbox wireless controller, which is also compatible with PC, and it just launched this week on August 28th. In Razer's Xbox line, the V3 Pro is a follow-up to the Wolverine V2 Chroma, and allegedly boasts several improvements over its predecessor, so we're going to open it up, test it out, and see how this controller stacks up to the current competition on both Xbox and PC. I've got to say, I'm genuinely excited to get into this thing. It's been about 3 years since the Wolverine V2 Chroma came out, so it feels like myself and everybody else has been waiting a really long time for a new controller in this line. So we've got a pretty thick outer sleeve, and then the actual box has the Razer slogan on it, for gamers, by gamers. We've got the box with the USB cable based on the picture, the carrying case, and I guess that has everything else in it. And then we've got the owner's manual here. And that's a pretty nice presentation. You kind of expect that with a $200 controller though. We've got a booklet style owner's manual, and then they've also thrown in a couple of Razer stickers here. This is a braided USB cable. I believe the specs said this is a 10-foot cable, and this thing is actually really heavy duty. I like that they include the dust caps on the connectors. And it is USB-A to USB-C, which is the standard these days really. And now the fun part. To be honest, I've never really cared about carrying cases, but it's nice that it comes with one. Again, just something you kind of expect with a $200 controller. It does have a mesh pocket up top, so I guess a good place for the USB cable if you are traveling with the controller. They also included foam rings to protect the thumbsticks. As far as accessories in the case, we've got the USB dongle, and again, they included the dust cover. And then we've got a couple of extra thumbstick cap options. So there's a short dome cap, and then a longer one that looks pretty much just like the default ones that are installed currently. We'll set all this stuff aside and get a look at the actual controller. There are quite a few things to go over here, and I'm just going to start with the face buttons. Razer is calling them Mecha Tactile buttons, which they say are mechanical, but still have a membrane cushion for comfort. To me, they really just feel and sound like mechanical switches, but they feel great. Their description of the D-pad is an 8-way floating D-pad, and again it sounds and feels like mechanical switches. It does definitely have the 8 distinct gates. You've got the start and menu button at the top, and then you've also got a share button since this is an officially licensed Xbox controller, and then the function button, which we'll get into. On top you have the 2 shoulder buttons as well as the analog triggers, but then also these 2 extra shoulder buttons, which Razer refers to as claw grip buttons, which makes sense, but the buttons are pretty accessible whether you're playing claw or not really. And then we have 4 buttons on the back, and these are really nice. This is so much better than the prior rear button system that Razer used. All 4 feel and sound like mouse clicks, which is great. They did advertise it that way, but I'm still a little bit surprised at how good these feel. Speaking of mouse clicks, we also have trigger locks. The triggers are analog, but you can engage these locks, and then you have a very short mouse click trigger, which feels and sounds really good. I think these might actually be the shortest pull of any trigger locks I've used. Then back on the front side, we'll take a quick look at the thumbsticks. These are Hall effect sticks, thankfully, so stick drift won't be a concern, or at least not to the extent it was on prior Razer Wolverine models. And as we saw, there are a couple of included interchangeable thumbsticks. So you have a dome stick that's basically the same height as the default sticks. And then you also have a longer stick that's the same head exactly, just of a longer size. I like the short dome stick quite a bit, but I don't really care for the longer stick. I prefer a wider thumbstick head on the right, so I'm going to go with a Control Freak for now, and the Xbox Control Freaks fit well. So overall, I really like the design choices Razer has made. The controller feels comfortable as well as functional, which is a big step up from previous iterations of this same controller. I think the material feels great on the controller. The only rubberized grip is on the rear of the grip, but even this plastic on the front feels coated, like it has a little bit of texture to it. It's not slick or uncomfortable at all. So I think now it's time to test the controller out. I'm going to get a few games in with it, and then we will hop over on the PC and do some testing as well. This is the Razer Controller Setup App, which is available for both PC and Xbox, and sadly is still the app we're going to be using with the V3 Pro. This page is the only option in the app that is not available on the Xbox, and it explains how to switch between Xbox and PC mode. That note under the PC mode section is accurate. Once you've enabled PC mode, the app no longer works and it forces you to close. So if you want to customize options on the V3 Pro, you'll have to be in Xbox mode to do so. Once you're connected, this is the home page. I've already set up a profile for testing purposes, but we'll make a new one so we can go through all the options. So within each profile, there are a few things you can do. There's button assignment, which is pretty self-explanatory. You just click on the button and it brings up a list, and you can select what you want to assign to that button. You can also do button assignments directly from the controller without using the app by holding the function button plus the multifunction button you are configuring, then pressing the button you want to assign to it. Next, we have the thumbstick settings, which to me were a little bit underwhelming. This prevent double dead zones feature sounds interesting in theory, but in general I always have my dead zones set as low as possible, and I also don't ever really want the PC making on-the-fly adjustments to my dead zones. This circularity setting is nice to see, and I praised that same setting in FlyDigi's app during my Vader 4 review, but the fact that you can't set these independently makes the feature much less useful, since the circular setting is great for aiming, but not what you want for movement. I did play with my dead zones here and lower them as far as possible. I was able to set the left stick to 2 and the right to 1, but to be fair, I've yet to own a controller that I could set at 0-0 with perfect zeros on both the X and Y axis. I do appreciate that there's a dead zone input tester built into the app. I've seen that in several apps lately, but still it's a nice feature to have. The last option here is sensitivity clutch, and this is pretty unique, though I'm still not sure if it's something I'll utilize or not. You can set a button or multiple buttons to act as a clutch for your left or right joystick, or both at the same time. When you hold that button, it drastically reduces your sensitivity, which could come in handy if it's something you learn to play with consistently. Haptic feedback, just like rumble motors, I turn off with every controller I own immediately, so I'm not the right person to let you know how well the haptic feedback works. The RGB lighting is customizable. You can change the brightness as well as the speed of the cycling spectrum of colors. You can also set it to one static color, which you can choose, and you can disable it entirely. The power saving tab is just one option where you can set the amount of idle time before the controller shuts off. Now we're going to jump over to Gamepad LA to verify polling rates, which Razer states is 250 Hz in Xbox mode and 1000 Hz in PC mode. We'll start off in Xbox mode, and this is via wired connection, but we'll also test wireless. And yep, that's 250 Hz and good consistency. Now we'll check wireless, which according to Razer should be exactly the same. And that's what it is, exactly the same, 250 Hz. Again, good consistency. Now we're in PC mode, so in theory 1000 Hz. You'll notice in this mode the controller actually shows up as the V3 Pro. And it is showing a max of 1000 Hz, though stability isn't great and average was just over 900. Yeah, we're going to run it one more time. We'll go ahead and do 6000 inputs this time. And results are the same. So it is much more consistent in Xbox mode at 250 Hz. So I've gotten a few hours in with the V3 Pro now, but honestly it's a little hard for me to give a verdict on this controller. It's a solid controller and a huge step up from the V2 Chroma. The back buttons alone are a game changer compared to Razer's previous models, which have what is almost certainly my all-time least favorite rear button design. These were just terrible, and the new mouse click buttons rather than those awful paddles make this a controller I actually want to use. I also love that we have Hall effect joysticks, mechanical face buttons, and what might be the best trigger stops currently available. I have fewer complaints than compliments, but the ones I have feel kind of big to me. The first is the outdated app and the lack of detailed customization. This app is terrible and feels ancient, especially compared to some of the third-party controller apps we've seen in the last few months. As far as performance goes, I love the design of the controller, but in-game it just feels a bit lackluster to me, specifically the response time. I think this might partially be because of the raw data thumbstick inputs I've grown accustomed to with GameStar controllers, and more recently the Vader 4, but regardless, I just don't feel like it's performing as well as I'd like. As far as Xbox gaming goes, it's a good option mostly because console is so much more limited than PC. It definitely outperforms something like the Elite Series 2 overall, but even then, the Elite 2 learned a new trick recently and actually has one kind of big advantage over the V3 Pro and every other controller out there when playing on Xbox. I'm planning a video on that soon. And then as far as PC gaming goes, there are just a lot more options, and most of those options are cheaper than the V3. Speaking of options, if you're not in a hurry to get your hands on this, one option is to hold off for a month until Wolverine V3 Tournament Edition launches. Based on the info Razer has provided, it's the same controller, minus wireless capabilities, and doesn't come with a travel case or the additional thumbstick caps. Oh, and it's half the price. I know for myself, I don't care about a case, and whether I'm playing on PC or Xbox, I'm only ever playing wired on a monitor, so it seems like that could be a great option a month from now. I hope this video helped you out, and if so, please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'll be doing more reviews regularly, so I hope to see you back here again soon. Thanks for watching.